Hello and welcome to Burning River Radio. This is the baseball edition, even though there's probably a basketball thing coming out soon because I believe the Cavaliers have swept the Velociraptors.
Of the North.
The Velociraptors of the North. So, fans, but we're going to talk about baseball from this second on. So the Indians are looking good, I think. Of course, I'm Joe Koblitz from Burning River Baseball. This is Justin Latta with me.
Hey.
And the Indians are playing pretty well right now, I think. I'm fairly happy. I know some people will never be happy. Some people will have you believe that you can't be happy until after they win a World Series. I'm not entirely against that, but I've been kind of waiting for that for about 30 years now. So, I mean, at some point you have to move on with your life and
life is short.
Find joy in smaller things, maybe. I mean, obviously that would be great, but you can't just wait till October every year. That's what I do with the Cavs, actually. I don't start watching the Cavs until about Game 7 of the finals. That's when real basketball starts.
I have not watched. I watched a little bit of
Mad.
Cavs the other day. But haven't watched much of it since it was baseball going on.
That was a joke.
I'm actually. I actually agree with your. I'm actually being serious about your joke. I've really not watched a whole lot just because of that reason, quite frankly.
Okay. Yeah, no, but the Indians lost the series to the Tigers early in the week, but it wasn't too bad. They beat the Astros, they beat the Mariners, they beat the Royals most recently. So they've won 3 out of the last 4 series. And I do think that they would have split that series with Detroit had they played the 4th game, which they canceled, postponed. Some people get really annoyed at that, apparently. Maybe that if we were doing a 2-hour podcast today, we gotta have this shit talking at the end, but we'll hold off on that for today.
Sounds like another podcast.
Yeah, we'll see when the Indians are officially eliminated from the playoffs. Then we'll have time for shit talking. Anyway, I think honestly, there's a lot of things to complain about. I guess for people find things to complain about, but I'm seeing a lot of great things. The bullpen is the best at baseball, unquestionably. We thought it was going to be really good, but guys like Nick Goody, Sean Armstrong, I'm not going to say Dan Otero. I will say Zach McAllister have been much better than expected.
Who in the bullpen has
agree?
Underperformed? I mean,
just Otero, I think.
Yeah, he had a couple bad outings. I mean, it's early. His last outing was really good. I mean, I don't think he's underperformed. I don't think anybody's underperformed in the bullpen.
Yeah, I wouldn't be talking about cutting him or anything. I'm just saying. I think. I mean, obviously, one of the weakest things is Edwin Encarnacion, and he still hit 5 home runs, I believe, maybe 6. So he is. Yeah, he is 6. So he's hitting them. He's walking. He had 1 or 2 hits today against the Royals. I think he had 1 hit.
Striking out.
Yeah, so I think he's starting to turn that around. Yan Gomes is really turning things around. Brandon Guyer had 2 hits today, which I predicted pregame because I'm a genius. Left-handed starter. It was just a guess. I mean, Kipnis is hitting better the last couple days. He had a single up the middle yesterday. That was really nice on Saturday night. So, yeah, and he had that double off the wall that was almost a home run. So, a lot of these guys who weren't playing necessarily great are playing better. Josh Tomlin had a great start on Saturday against the Royals. The only guy who hasn't really turned around yet is Bauer. And of course, maybe that's where we should start if we didn't start yet. Mike Clevenger pitched a great game today, which obviously led to people saying, cut Bauer, put Clevenger in the rotation. That's not going to happen. It's just not reasonable.
Can I just say I love people who, number one, overreacting to one start by Mike Clevenger. Number two, who throw around the term cut. Like, you understand, like, if you release Trevor Bauer, he'd have 29 phone calls in less than 29 seconds. People just toss the term around cut, like cut Santana, cut Shaw, just cut. Like, Like these guys are just you can replace them anyway on the street.
I'm going to say right now, I threw out the word cut. They didn't say cut. Some of the people were actually saying the more legitimate idea of putting him in the bullpen, which is physically possible. I'm going to get my contracts page up real quick here.
He has no options. If that's what you're wondering. He's out of options.
No, I know he has no options. My point is, Josh Tomlin is currently under contract through the 2017 season.
Yeah.
He has an option for $3 million next year.
Which they'll pick up probably.
If I were the Indians, I would not pick that up because there's so many other guys. Because you have to keep him on the team, and you're really going to keep Clevenger down another year. You're going to start Clevenger in 2018 in AAA. That doesn't even seem possible. The only way you can do that. Yeah, the only way you can do that is if you keep Tomlin, Clevenger has to start in AAA. That's essentially what you're saying, unless somebody dies or gets Tommy John or something like that. So to me, you don't take that $3 million option and Tomlin's gone at the end of the season. Trevor Bauer has 3 more years of team control. He's under control through 2020. You don't DFA a guy who could be even one of the top 50 starters in baseball when he has 3 years of control left. There's no reason to ever do that. It makes no sense at all. They will not do it. They could possibly trade him, but why would you trade a guy when he's at his lowest? That never makes sense. You know, you always see that argument too. Trade him for parts. You can't trade him when he's bad. That's the whole point. If you don't want him, no one else does either.
And he's a former first-round pick. You just don't DFA. Like I said, you don't DFA former first-round picks when they still are under club control.
Bauer's around is going to be around the team at least through the end of 2018. I think when he gets down to only having 2 seasons left of control, then you can talk about trading him or probably not DFAing him still. I mean, that is tough. He's so inconsistent to now have him and say, we got to have him on the roster for 4 straight years. He has to be on the 25-man constantly for the next 4 years. And we can't send him down to AAA a single time. I mean, that's tough. By 2020, the Indians will have almost a completely new rotation if they want it. There's enough guys down there between Tristan McKenzie and Merritt and Clevenger and stuff that they could have a completely new rotation by 2020 if they wanted to.
Well, they don't have to
because everybody on the rotation is signed through 2020, so they don't have to. But I'm saying they could. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, like if you get around to 2019 and you're like, okay, well, McKenzie's ready to start, and we got Trevor Bauer here with a 5 ERA. I think then you're talking about cutting him. But we're talking about 2 years in the future. So Bauer's around. He's staying. Forget about it.
True talent. I don't know if it's even. I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, I still think Bauer has a better upside than Clevenger, but I think there's still a lot of unknown with Clevenger because he doesn't have a lot of major league experience. But I'd be okay with putting Bauer in the bullpen at some point if this keeps up. It worked for Carrasco. I just don't know if Bauer has the attitude to do it. I think he's someone who would be pretty pissed off if that ends up being the issue. But I could be wrong. He could actually try to salvage his career if this isn't working. I don't know.
All right. The other part of it was the things people complain about is every single time Cody Allen comes into a game, I see people bitching about him. And literally, let me just say this, please, if you're listening. Cody Allen is very literally the greatest closer in Indians history already. It's done. He's it. He's the man. He is the greatest closer in Indians history. He's the most efficient closer in Indians history. He's the greatest strikeout pitcher of any kind in Indians history. He literally has struck out more guys per 9 innings than every single pitcher in 117 years of Indians baseball. If you put the limit at like 300 innings.
But he scares me.
He shouldn't scare anybody ever. And that it's so annoying. I get Brian Shaw will sometimes give up 5 runs in an inning. He's usually perfect 9 times out of 10, and then that 10th time he gives up 4 or 5 runs. I get it. I get if you're a little worried about Shaw. You should never, ever, ever be worried about Allen.
I mean, it doesn't mean he's not going to blow a save, but You
Yeah,
should feel
everybody blows
confident
saves.
coming in. He's going to be fine.
Last year I this comes up every season for some reason, and somebody today was asking who was more worrisome, Cody Allen or Chris Perez, and I said those are literally the number 1 and 2 closers in Indians history. How are you? You're worried about those guys? You watch Doug Jones pitch, and you're worried about those guys?
Bob
You watch
Wickman.
Jose Mesa pitch and Bob Wickman, and Mike Jackson was awesome. So Mike Jackson is like number 3, but
Joe Borowski.
Joe Borowski was the worst pitcher in Indians history.
Yes.
Or worst closer in Indians history. He was one of the worst closers in baseball history. Actually, was on a local radio show in Arizona this morning talking about Joe Borowski for some reason. I don't know how that came up.
Sounds like a terrible show.
We were talking about Fernando Rodney, actually.
Yeah.
And so I made
Fernando
the point.
Rodney, I'd be scared.
I made the point.
Save.
The Diamondbacks. I made the point.
Tigers, I mean, I'm talking about K-Rod, lumping him with Rodney.
Okay. I mean, well, but on the show Dorf on Sports, which is Jeff Rich's new show in Arizona here, and you can listen to that online. I recommend it since I'm writing for them now, and I got to kind of pull for them as well. But they had asked me what the Diamondbacks' biggest problem is. I said, well, it's the bullpen. And you can win with a terrible closer. The Indians did it in 2007. Borowski saved, I think, 45 games that year. You can be a terrible closer and get saves. It's easy. You think about the math, and it was put out in a baseball book I read. I can't remember. It's an older one. It might have been the Fangraphs book, Everything You Know Is Wrong, or whatever. I think it's called Beyond the Box Score or something like that. Whatever. It was a book I read recently, but came out years ago. And they were talking about how the worst pitcher in the world, like if you have a 5 or 6 ERA, you're still not giving up a run every single inning. You're giving up a run 6 out of 9 innings if you have a 6 ERA. So 3 out of 9 times you're going to get a save. If you come in there with a 3-1 lead, three-run lead, you can have a 6 ERA and literally be perfect in saves. Because you could just give up 1 run and you still win with a 2-run save, or you give up 2 runs and you could still win with a 3-run. You had that 3-run lead, you got it down to 1, you could still win. So you could be terrible and still save every single game. And I guarantee you, a guy who did that would get more credit than Cody Allen gets right now.
It's ridiculous. I've given up trying to explain things. I mean, even the other night in Detroit when he did, walk 2 guys and give up a hit.
Well, of course, he hit a guy today against Kansas City.
Yeah, and I didn't even blink. I didn't, wasn't sitting there chewing on my fingernails or anything. Look what he did in the postseason. I mean, it's amazing that people are worried about him. Like you worry about an April or May Sunday game, but he literally didn't give up a single run in the postseason. That's what amazes me is that he didn't. He was better than Andrew Miller last postseason. Andrew Miller got won the ALCS MVP and all that, but
he wasn't better in the ALCS, but he was better in the World Series.
Well, statistically overall, Miller gave up runs.
Yeah,
he
if you
gave
took
up a home run to David
if
Ross.
you took the whole thing. Well, even this season, Miller has a 0 ERA, but he has allowed, I think, 2 inherited runners to score, and it was like 2 of his first 3. So it was really early on where he was allowing some inherited runners to score. Whereas Allen has an ERA that's very low, but he has an ERA.
A negative
so
FIP.
a lot of. But other than that, I think straight down the line, all of Allen's numbers are better than Miller's. And honestly, I think in the end, Miller's going to be the better pitcher, slightly. But it's really close. And they're 1 and 2, and they could easily be the top 2 here. And they could both be on the All-Star team. The Indians could have 4 representatives on the All-Star team, and 2 of them be relief pitchers.
They should. And Cody Allen's a free agent at the end of next year. He's gonna make $10 million a year.
I would expect considerably more than that, but we can talk about that later.
He's gonna make at least $10 million a year.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're a closer and you earn a $10 million a year contract, you're good. You don't scare people.
No, but Miller makes $9 million a year, and he signed that deal in 2014. There's no way Allen's making less than that.
So 12, 13 mil a year?
15. If he signs with Cleveland, maybe 13.
Yeah, I
But
don't know if
again,
he stays or
that's
not.
beyond the point. I really wanted to talk about Cox.
That's a topic we should totally cover on a baseball podcast.
No, it's just funny. When Matt Harvey got suspended today, 3 games by the team, and it turned out it was because he didn't show up to the game yesterday. Oops. You pitched it on Sunday, you skipped the game Saturday. Oh well, right?
Not a big deal.
No, it wasn't. But a lot of people, because the Mets were being so close-lipped about it, they didn't want to mention it. They were saying they thought it was because they posted it. I didn't even see where the pitcher originally posted on, because on Twitter you just see, you see pitchers. I saw the picture like 6 times posted all from different accounts or whatever. So I don't know where it initially came from. But there was a picture of a locker room interview after a Mets game, and there's just this giant dildo sitting in the guy's locker.
That was from the
And
Mets official Twitter account. That was the Mets tweeted that
it
picture.
was.
Yeah, it was Kevin
That's good.
Plawecki wearing a crown, or no, it was TJ Rivera. He had a really good night, and he was wearing a crown in his locker and had the dildo in it.
But it's funny to me, and my point is, and this is a short point, so we could just move on. But baseball players, first thing, they're jocks, and a lot of times people forget that because they watch them on TV, so all of a sudden they're TV stars. But they're really jocks at heart, and they're idiots, and they think stupid shit's funny, and I think that's funny. And you can't hold them to a higher standard of morality or family cleanliness than anybody else. And I've been around a lot of baseball players, a lot. They don't talk family friendly. They don't joke family friendly, which I don't either. So I like it. I enjoy it. But to me, that's a funny thing. Talk at someone's locker.
I think that's funny only for the fact, like you talked about, because I've seen worse. Like if you ever spend time in a baseball locker room, you automatically see worse. I mean, I don't want to. I'll say there was a locker room I was in.
Yeah, no. If you saw
Several
something in
years
a
ago.
locker room, let's.
Well, it was intentional by the player with media in there. It was intentional by the player. Let's just say. I mean, it was pretty ugly. But I mean,
Okay.
I've seen worse. So that's a practical joke. I mean, what they got rid of Hayes and they said dressing up in costumes was too much of an issue. But then you see this, costumes aren't a big deal.
Well, I'd say and now this is a different angle a little bit, but on the celebrity thing, I used to listen to the Anthony Cumia show all the time, which I'm sure you would hate him on every single level. In fact, you retweeted his ex-girlfriend the other day, which I found was hilarious. But in his studio, in his new show, they're in a big New York City building, and to go to the bathroom, they have to leave the studio, and they have a key for the bathroom, and the key is on a giant dildo. So it's in the same level of humor, right? And it's not just that show. I think Bobby Kelly's show, you know what, dude? They have the exact same thing, or they used to, where they had a restroom key and it's on a giant dildo. So it's not even just a practical joke. It's just there all the time. And it's meant to be funny.
I've seen that's the stuff on radio too. Yeah, I mean that's.
But that's
I
what I say.
don't know.
Don't hold these guys to a higher standard because they're baseball players. They're goofing around. First, half of them are 20 years old anyway, 23 years old. The kids. They're goofing around. It's funny. They're jocks. They're stupid. Let them be stupid. Except Bauer. He's a
And
genius.
they're not doing it outwardly. It's not like they're trying to offend anybody. They're having fun within their own, their own space.
Yeah, and a lot of that is the decrease of course, the Mets Twitter guy. Come on, you gotta
Yeah,
see
that
that.
should have been a little bit more. You proofread the photo. I don't know.
Yeah, you want to suspend somebody for 3 games? Suspend him.
Yeah, there you go. That guy should have. That guy clearly didn't proofread. Proofreading is number one in social media, especially when you're with a professional account.
Our main topic tonight, if we're gonna John Oliver this, see, I watch all sides, but is there was and this whole thing with Boston and Baltimore. first thing, I didn't watch any of those games. I saw all the highlights, the near hit by pitches, the actual hit by pitches, the whatever, the controversy and such. But I didn't actually watch the games. Because I'm watching Indians games, obviously, at the same time. It's hard to do both at the same time, so I will watch Indians. But I still have an opinion on this. The big thing was Adam Jones was leaving. And who doesn't love Adam Jones? He brought gold to the United States. I mean, you got to appreciate him for that, right?
Sure.
Nothing. You don't care about the World Baseball Classic?
I had a hard time caring about it during, and I'm...
Okay, I watched that during, and I saw him during, and he was incredible, and he went all out every single night. And I love Adam Jones. And not Pac-Man, Adam Jones. Two Joneses. Same name. Different sport.
Don't call him Pac-Man, yeah.
So, you're not even supposed to call Pac-Man Pac-Man anymore, I don't think.
I don't think he gets that right, but whatever.
No, Pac-Man Jones, the football player? I don't
Yeah.
think you're supposed to call him Pac-Man anymore. I think he gets mad at it. Anyway, Adam Jones, the center fielder for the Orioles. So somebody called him some nasty words as he was leaving. It was probably Anthony Cumia. But, so as he's leaving, and there's this whole controversy of should... do you have a take on this? Because I'll go along on it.
The whole... Well, which part of it?
Just the initial... if you have anything initially on the Red Sox and Orioles, you may have seen more of it than I did.
Not really. I didn't see a whole lot of it. I mean, obviously, I followed it through. I don't really have a... If you're talking about just the beanball thing and
yeah, I guess there's a whole bunch of... There's a lot of different pieces of this, because one thing is Chris Sale threw behind Manny Machado, thrown at his knees, did not get suspended. And after the game, Machado was really pissed, and he's essentially saying, I can't come up to the plate every time, assuming that the first three balls are going to come at me. Like, I can't have that fear of this guy's going to throw 100 miles an hour and hit me in the knee.
But it goes back further than that, even.
Well, I'm just saying, but that was the most recent one last week. You can take it back further.
I mean, yeah, it started with where was it? Pedroia or Machado sliding in Pedroia. And then I forget who they threw at, but they threw at somebody in Baltimore. I don't know how this all relates to Adam Jones being, said some nasty words to. I'm not sure if this was involved at all, just because.
But I think it is, because
the whole thing was messed up.
It's a higher tensions thing, and I think honestly, if Jones had heard something like that previously, because like CC Sabathia came out and said he hears the same stuff in Boston when he goes there, and he goes there 6 times a year,
So Adam Jones, yeah.
So I think Adam Jones probably has heard this stuff before, probably in Boston, but it never bothered him because they didn't have that heightened level of intensity previous to this particular one.
I don't know if that was necessarily. I think we know. You said it before. I think Boston's just a town filled with shitty people, with a lot of shitty people. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
When did I say that?
I didn't know. Okay, I'm saying the premise was we know Boston's a very nasty city in some respects.
I've been to Boston for all of 20 seconds. I've not spent significant time in Boston, so I can't say on personal note. I will say, like I said, I watched Anthony. I used to listen to Opie and Anthony back in the day and Ron and Fez, and all those shows are based in New York City. So I am aware of their opinions of Boston, and it was always that Boston is an extremely segregated city. Somehow they got away with it, and all of the people of a type live in a box. Like, they've got them all separated out into their little areas so they can be happy and not intermingle. And that has led to, I mean, when you don't interact with people, you hate them a lot more easily. I mean, if you're interacting with somebody every day, you don't, you get to know them, you like them, whatever. But if you don't interact with them every day, then you get some animosity and that type of thing. So I think that's kind of where this history of racism in Boston has come from. I don't know that there are more racists in Boston than anywhere else.
True.
But it definitely has that reputation. And obviously, that's what these players are saying. A lot of players came out afterwards and said, "Yeah, I don't think there's any other city in the country except Boston."
Are
So,
you supposed to
congrats,
not
I
believe
guess.
them? I mean,
Well, no, I believe them.
right? That's what people
Why
are
not? I mean,
saying. Well, saying that's not true. I think there's some probably level of truth to that, but a lot
I
of
think
people
there's
are
some.
saying that's
Yeah.
not true.
Well, it's also like there could be racists everywhere. There are racists everywhere, but most people would not be comfortable saying something like that in public. So you have to be a different level to have people who are comfortable to say that in public. I mean, in Arizona, nobody is outwardly racist unless nobody under 80, essentially. Once you get past a certain age. But everybody is super PC all the time. They might have a gun hanging on their hip, but they're super PC all the time. But in private, I've met some people who are racist. But you have to get to know these people. They will not let that shit slip before you get to a certain level because they're being PC. They're being under control because they know there's a good chance the person they're talking to is not going to be okay with it. And I think in Boston they got a better chance of saying it and getting away with it.
Apparently, that's why they're saying it.
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to talk about more of the stadium security aspect of it because there was a lot of confusion of it, and it's something I know very well for some unknown reason. Let's just say I've been ejected a lot.
You've been ejected from a ballpark? Wow.
No, I'm joking.
Oh, wow.
You're blowing it. No, so what I was saying is like, first thing, I don't want to give anything away that I haven't given away already. But let's say you have 40,000 fans in a stadium. You probably have like 800 security guards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't necessarily include that probably does include ushers. So you've got an usher at every row, and then you've got other security guards at gates and roving and stuff like that. There's one usher at a row for how many people are in a row? I mean, let's say you got 40 times 2. Do some math for me.
40 times 2?
Well, no, you got 40,000, and then you're going to divide that by 2 decks. So that's 20,000 per deck. And then let's say divide that by 30. There's 30 rows. There's almost 700 people in each section.
Yeah,
You've
about
got
6,000, yeah, or 600,
yes, it came out
650.
666,
Yeah.
which is perfect. So you've got 600 some people per section. You have one usher watching 600 people. If somebody in that section says something that makes somebody else uncomfortable, no matter what it is, there's an extremely good chance that that usher did not hear it. So,
You think?
the person who, I know from personal experience, but besides the point, but so essentially the way it would work is then the person who heard the offensive thing has to tell the usher, hey, I heard this offensive thing. Then the usher has to go, hey, did you say this offensive thing? And if you did, don't say it again. And then they have to go, beyond that, if they keep extenuating the circumstances, you have to bring in police and more security and that type of thing. And eventually someone can get ejected. But somebody yelling one thing at a baseball player, and then eventually it was confirmed, other people in the area said they were able to confirm he said that. By the time you figure that out, everybody's left the stadium. Like it's such a short shelf life where you got to actually do something about this situation. So the best thing to do if you're listening to this and you're at a ball game and somebody says something to you, almost every team has a text line. If you text that line, you can bypass the usher and get to people who actually know what they're doing, like police officers who are at every single game.
Mostly on the
And one of the
field, not in the stands.
no in the stands. Yeah, lots of them. Let's say at a baseball game that averages 10,000 people, you got 20 cops there in the stands. Just an average, maybe. I don't know how I know that. Just making stuff up. but but it's accurate.
Sure.
So yeah, so I mean they'll take people out if they're being nasty, especially if you have multiple witnesses. It's really easy to go, did he say this, and then have 5 people say yes, he said that, and then get rid of somebody. So that works. I mean, you can do that. But the text line is definitely the way to go. Don't try to find somebody, because you might not be able to, because there's 60 or 40,000 people there, and there's only less than 1,000 security guards, including police and ushers and all that. So you don't want to try to find somebody, but like I said, there are ways to do it, and I think that's what this was a little bit of an over exaggeration of how big the problem was in this one particular instance, and one guy being an asshole. The other half of this thing was they were asking, should a guy be ejected for life for doing something like this, or ejected for a certain period of time? And then they were saying, well, how can you do that? And essentially the way is you make sure he can't buy tickets he can't buy tickets directly from the team using his own name anymore. That's one thing. But of course you can go to any of the other sites, secondary market, scalpers, any of that stuff, and get in. So the real thing is, if you get caught again, you can be arrested and put in jail because they'll give you a warning of trespassing. So it's not that they can't ever come back. It's that if they come back and misbehave, that they're going to jail and they don't want to go. That's usually a bigger deterrent than just getting kicked out of a game.
And you think that's too harsh of a penalty?
It depends on the situation. I think if you're threatening somebody, it's not. I mean, I know very well what my line would be. Man, I'd love to talk about this stuff. Getting potentially getting elbowed in the neck by a guy who looked like he weighed 500 pounds. That's past the line.
Okay, so that's where you
yelling at Susie Colbert for no reason. That's past the line.
But the thing is, these are all pretty obvious.
You should say. I guess, in yelling that against Adam, if you're yelling at Adam Jones and calling him the N-word, yes, you should be ejected and trespassed, and you should not be coming back to the stadium. Because it's not just offensive to Adam Jones, it's offensive to everybody around him, and nobody wants to hear that. And when you allow that type of behavior, it asks for more of that behavior.
It does, but I really feel like it's not just that one guy. Like you say, nobody wants to hear that, but chances are there's somebody else in the stands who probably is equally as racist. People are,
yeah, but I don't care. Okay, I don't care if someone's racist. It does not bother me if somebody else is racist. They can be racist on their own. You can think whatever you want to think. But when you start speaking and when you start acting, that's when the problem is. I don't care at all what anyone in the world thinks. They can think whatever they want. They can think I'm an asshole and I'm wasting 45 minutes of their time.
But don't think it out loud.
You are more than welcome to think that. You can even say that one and tweet it at me at Burning River BB, and maybe I'll enjoy it. Maybe I'll send it over to Mike. You could think. So, like I said, you can think whatever you want to think. It's when you start acting that it's an issue. So I think if you say that to Adam Jones, who is a wonderful human being, and I think that's like, as somebody wrote an article, he said that to the wrong person. Well, no, anybody was the wrong person. You shouldn't have said it to anybody.
Right.
Like, it's not like there was a right guy. It's not like Michael Bourne, because he sucks, you could yell at him. No, you don't yell at anybody. So I thought the title of that article was a little problematic, as the liberals would say. But the point is, he is I don't know why anyone would ever yell at him. I can't picture being mad at him. Like, no, I lost it. He's a fucking catcher for the Tigers for no reason. Avila. I can't be mad at Avila. He's never done anything to me. Like, I can be mad at Miguel Cabrera, but I can't be mad at Avila. Like, even if he hit 6 game-winning home runs against the Indians, I'm not gonna be mad at him. He's not an asshole. Like, that's how I feel about Adam Jones. Like, Adam Jones could beat the Red Sox 8,000 times, and their people should not be mad at him. He's not an asshole. Leave him alone. Be mad at Machado. If that's who you really want to be mad at. But don't be mad at Adam Jones.
Okay, let's put that in context then. Aroldis Chapman, or even more recently, Uri's Familia, or Jose Reyes.
Okay.
You know what they've done?
So I don't know what Jose Reyes did. I missed that one. But the other two guys. So you yell at him, your wife beat her. Like if somebody yelled that at them from the crowd, that might be ejectable because you're not supposed to harass players. But you're not gonna worry about banning that guy for life or whatever.
I guess, but okay, I'm not saying that. But in general, is it okay to say nasty things to them because of their past? You just mentioned about Miguel Cabrera, but you're talking about guys who've actually committed possible crimes or have done something.
I guess I'm kind of putting jokes in with serious stuff, partly when I'm talking about Cabrera.
Okay.
Although Cabrera did do some of the stuff that you're kind of talking about here.
Yes, he does have that history. You're right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
But that's beside the point. I was talking about his goofy antics more than, and that's why I'm talking about Machado. Machado's never done anything wrong. He's a top 5 player in baseball. He's extremely entertaining to watch. He's a great defender. The fact that he played shortstop at like a Gold Glove level and then went back to third base last year, I mean, that was ridiculous. So, he's great. He's never done anything off the field. But I can understand if Red Sox fans hate him. That was a separate thing. It's not on the ejection thing, I guess. Is that I don't understand anyone hating Adam Jones.
I don't either.
He literally he won it for America.
Well, it's obvious that guy doesn't feel like Manny Machado is an American. Maybe he should ask for his
Machado was
birth
playing for DR. Machado did play.
That guy should have asked for Machado's birth certificate or something. I don't know.
I don't know that Machado was there. He was yelling at Adam Jones.
Well, Adam Jones. Sorry, he should ask for Adam Jones' birth certificate, I guess.
No, but he played for America. Like he won. I don't even care if he's born here. He is, but he was.
But obviously, that guy doesn't give a crap that he won it for America.
Yeah, he probably didn't watch the WBC.
Yeah, no. But seriously, though, like, is it okay to say these things to a player who's got a less than clean background? Because I think no matter what a player does, like,
you can't say that word in public anywhere ever.
Exactly. Well,
that
I agree.
word,
yes.
And like 3 other words. 1 other word, because you can say fuck in public. There's like 3 or 4 words that you got to be really egregious with it, though.
You say it once. Major League Baseball team has that announcement. They say that abusive language may not be appreciated.
But what did I say? There's one usher watching 600 people.
Right.
Unless the usher had eyes on you when you said it, they're not going to eject you for saying it once. And especially if it's an emotional thing where someone just hit a home run off you or something like that, no one's going to care. It's really, if you're really egregious with you and really bad, constant bad language, and somebody's got a 6-year-old in front of you or something like that, I can understand, maybe they would do something then. But it's those 3 or 4. I hate using the left's lingo, but those trigger words. There's like 3 or 4 trigger words. I'm not even gonna say them here, but everyone knows what they are, and you don't say them in public anywhere ever. You can't.
It's not that hard.
So you just don't say those words ever. It doesn't matter what nationality you are. You don't say them to anybody ever in public. If you do, you're asking for trouble. And so that's what. So those words. So you're saying, can you say something to Aroldis Chapman?
Can you heckle players
I think you can. There's also different levels of heckling. There's "you suck," which I think is always acceptable because it's funny. To yell. I wouldn't. I've never heckled anyone ever. But if you yell at a major leaguer, "you suck," that's really funny to me. Like there was a guy today at Kansas City yelling at Lonnie. He goes, "Lonnie." It's like, that's just funny. I think he even said, "Lonnie, you suck."
I've heckled players before. Like I seriously, when I was younger, I'll even say who it was. I actually yelled at David DeLucci, Jason Michaels. I think that was only two. I'm pretty sure. And it was definitely David DeLucci.
Those are your own guys. I'll say, well, you want an age gap. When I was younger, I remember sitting in the outfield bleachers or whatever it was. It was right field, so they weren't bleachers. But sitting out there in the playoffs, and my entire section was going, Buhner for 9 innings. How obnoxious was that? So that kind of heckling isn't. I mean, it can get excessive, but I think that's all in good taste, and it's funny. And I've seen guys like, will they yell at a guy forever, and then he'll just turn around and tip his cap, and everyone gets a kick out of that. And that stuff is funny, and that's a lot of what Miguel Cabrera's stuff is like. When that video of that little kid at the Indians game with Cabrera from last season, or maybe it was 2 years ago. That video is on like highlight clips still. Where the little kid is yelling at him, and then he comes over and like gives him a baseball. He's going back and forth with this 10-year-old. Like, that's hilarious, and that's fun stuff. So as long as it's good natured and in there, but if you're yelling, "Hey, Roldis Chapman, I know what you did. I'm going to kill you," like, that's not acceptable. You can't. Everybody should know what the line is. It should be pretty easy. When you're drunk, maybe the line's not that easy to find. Maybe you go over it. But someone will say you went over the line, so stop going over the line.
That's pretty simple. That's what I was going to say. If it's not all in playful fun, and if it's not just about baseball, if it goes beyond baseball, I think you've crossed the line. That's
I mean, my personal thing, I never boo anybody ever on any team. So I'm not heckling. If I'm not even going to boo when the rest of the crowd is booing, I'm certainly not going to be heckling anybody. And I've met a lot of these guys, and I've stood an inch away from Michael Martinez. I save my trash talk for Twitter, and my more well-reasoned trash talk for BurningerForBaseball.com. And some people don't like that. I've had a couple. Zach Walters blocked me.
Zach Walters blocked everybody. Everybody.
Yeah, I know, but I think I had said enough stuff that he deserved. Like, I deserve that one. I didn't say anything. I wasn't like saying I hate you. I wasn't ever adding him, but I was saying realistic things. Like, I didn't think he'd ever be able to play third base because I watched him play third base. I was, I was saying that I didn't ever think he was ever going to turn things around and become anything other than a strikeout king, and obviously he hasn't. I was right.
Did you add him and all that stuff?
No, I would never. To me, that's the same as saying it to their face. But I would say that stuff on Twitter. So, yeah, if someone searched their name, and Anthony Miller was the same thing. He's still in the Indian system, and I said kind of similar things to him. He's terrible defensively at first base. He strikes out way too much. He's got a giant swing and no power, and he's doing better now. But I still don't think he's ever going to make it to the majors. But
he blocked you.
But he blocked me, and I never sent anything to him directly. He just probably searched his name and found it. I mean, that's one thing. If they actually are going out and looking for this stuff, I'm going to talk about players. That's what we do. We tweet about them. We write about them on the site. We talk about them on the podcast. We talk about players.
And it's about baseball. It's not personal.
Yeah, and that's what, like, if I saw Anthony Miller play in at least 20 games that year, I can make a decent informed opinion about a guy after 20 games, I think, seeing him in person. Especially playing first base where you're getting a ton of defensive work. It's not like he was playing left field and 3 balls got hit out there. He was playing first base. He was involved on almost every single play. So, like, I can say that he is a very poor defender and that Ulysses Cantu is a much better defender.
Right, but you're calling him a bad baseball player. You're not calling him a piece of shit loser. Like, you don't care what he does on the field.
The language from this man.
You gonna ban me from our podcast?
You're supposed to be a professional.
You gonna ban me from our podcast?
No, because I don't know how to do any of this technical shit.
Job security.
I really just don't want to.
But you don't make. I mean, I never ever add. Will never add an athlete about anything I think about them. Even at captain's games. I will never do that.
Yeah, sometimes I'll put him in a picture, and I even feel, but like I take a ton of pictures at Extended Spring and AZL, and there's no one here. Getty's not here taking pictures. The team isn't here taking pictures. I'm the only one taking pictures. So sometimes I'll at the players because they're like they want it. They want to see that. But then I run the risk. Some of them follow me. So especially the younger guys that I write about a lot. So now, I mean, nothing bad about Simeon Lucas, whose mother I've met, who I've talked to,
That
who
next to
who's on Twitter. Like I got to. If he I've been trying to keep it positive with him, particularly because I think the Indians are kind of giving him a little bit of a rough ride right now. I don't think they're really treating him fairly, but he also hasn't really done anything to deserve, that easy ride up.
Mm.
So it's a little bit of both on him in particular. But in general, I try not to talk badly about anybody at this level. I will say the John Rodriguez was awful the other day, like possibly the worst defensive game I've ever seen anyone play.
Jahan.
Jahan, yes. Don't get him confused with Yorma or Jason, because
Or
they're
Johnny.
very different. Who's Johnny?
I don't know.
Rodriguez?
Yeah, Jahan.
That's Jan, I think.
Jan. Okay, Jan.
I think it's Jan Rodriguez, the second baseman. Yorma Rodriguez is a second baseman shortstop who's now with the Captains, I think. And
Yes.
Jason Rodriguez is a first baseman catcher who is a very large man, and I would never say anything about him.
Gotta know your
he's
limits.
a fairly decent slugger anyway. Yeah, so I like there's a lot of bad play at this level that I watch, and I try to keep the vast majority of it to myself right now, and keep it to myself. I'm just saying, but at the majors, everybody knows when you fuck up. It's out there. It's on Fangraphs. It's on Baseball Reference. It's on
It's on Twitter.
Indians.com. Well, yeah, I mean, even if you didn't watch the game and you're not on Twitter, like you're gonna see it eventually. So talking about it on Twitter and putting it on Twitter is not like you're saying something that these guys don't know. So if you say Zach Walters, if he had a full season of at bats, would set the new Major League strikeout record, he probably should know that already.
It probably would have been true if he did it. If he had a chance.
Yeah, he's never gonna get a chance.
Yeah, no.
What happened to
But I
James
mean,
Franks?
I would say adding an athlete on Twitter with any sort of vitriol is just as bad as being heckled. It's just as bad as doing it in public. I mean, the guy's gonna block you,
It's
obviously.
it's actually probably worse on Twitter, just because if you yell something at an athlete, I mean, those places are noisy. Most of the time, they're not even going to hear it. It's funny. I was at the Final Four in the upper deck, and this dude is yelling at Gonzaga. Right? They're the losers. This dude is yelling at Gonzaga in the last row of the stadium. You're in a stadium that seats 72,000 people. You're in the last row, and you think that this dude on Gonzaga on the court in the middle of a football field can hear you? Are you insane? Why are you yelling at him? So I think the majority of the things yelled at athletes, they don't hear. So I think it's much worse to do it on Twitter and actually send it to their name.
It is. You're right. But at least the player has the power to block them. If by some chance a player hears you in the ballpark, there's still a good chance he's not going to be ejected. Like even though
Yeah, in general, you've got that.
Aaron Jones
You've
hurt
just
him,
got that mass. It's camouflage. That's the guy.
I didn't do it. No, I didn't.
Guy wearing
I
an
didn't say
Indians
anything.
hat.
You can't prove it. Yeah,
He was wearing a Big Poppy jersey. Yeah, him and 25,000 other people.
yeah. So you're right. It is worse to do it, but at least they know who did it and who they can report or block, and then he can make
Yeah.
you look like an asshole to everybody else because he can. That's what Bauer does to people when they come at him. You know, he can at least let people know that you're an asshole and you should be blocked on Twitter because you're an asshole.
Can since we're talking about Twitter, and we can wrap this up right here. I just want to talk shit on Indians Twitter for 1 second.
Oh boy.
It's not just Indians Twitter; it's everybody's Twitter. I'm talking about at Indians. The Twitter handle at Indians, which is run by someone new this year than it was last year.
Yes.
I forget who it is, but I saw it at one point. I didn't like the guy who ran it last year, even though everyone else loved him. My biggest pet peeve is somebody will say, "Hey, at Indians, you should cut Trevor Bauer," as we were talking about earlier today. Something that's a hypothetical. Somebody says that. At Indians replies, "We're not in charge of roster moves." No shit. You mean Mike Chernoff isn't running the Twitter account? Really? I'm amazed. I thought Terry Francona got on Twitter during the games and tweeted out pictures of hot dogs. It's like they if you add Indians, it's completely different from adding a player to me. You should be able to add Indians anything you want. You should be able to say literally any words you want except for those 3 words. You should be able to say any words you want to add Indians. And they shouldn't be able to reply with, "You shouldn't be sending this to me." Because it's just a catch-all. They are the representation of the Indians on Twitter. So when they say things like, "We don't set the roster, we don't make trades, we don't do," we're aware that the person who runs the Indians Twitter account doesn't do those things, but the team does. And these people, I don't do it, but the people who say, "Add Indians, trade this guy, sell this guy, DFA this guy, sign this guy to an extension," they aren't talking to you, guy who runs Indians Twitter. They're talking to the team. It might not be getting to the team, but that's their intention.
They had better replies last year to this stuff too. I think, when you say let's cut Carlos Santana last year, or whatever it was, that's just an example. But last year they came back with, they obviously started the whole "we don't make roster decisions" thing, but they also were taking the argument and just pinning it back on the idiot saying something if it was pretty egregious, like.
Well, that's what they should do.
And they have, like, with Cody Allen and stuff like that.
My problem is just that we don't, like, to me, if somebody says that to you and you don't want to make the argument back and you don't want to get into discussion, which they shouldn't, there's no reason for them to be getting in discussions with people about shit like that. So if you don't want to get in that discussion, then just ignore them. Don't block them. Don't mute them. They're probably fans. Let them follow you and just ignore them. Turn your notifications off. If you're the at Indians, you have notifications on, you're crazy.
Yeah.
They have to have 5,000 every 2 minutes.
I think you just pick out the worst of the bunch and you make fun of them for doing that. That's what you do.
Oh, no, that's what you do.
Yeah.
I forgot you do that.
I do that. I pick out the worst of the bunch and I make fun of them, which is...
And I made the joke this morning. Somebody said, "How do you find these guys with 6 followers?" And I corrected him and I said 7 because I always follow everybody that Justin doesn't like. And that's true. Every single time you point out a hot take and you're like, "This guy's an idiot," I follow them immediately.
Because you want to see one of their bad takes.
And then I wonder why I'm reading people who hate Cody Allen. It's your fault.
Exactly. It's my fault? Okay.
It's your fault.
Remind me. Okay.
because and then I mute them. As soon as I see a Cody Allen take where somebody's like, "Oh, Cody Allen makes me so nervous," immediate mute. I'm done with you.
Why do you mute? Why don't you just unfollow?
Because then they might unfollow me, and I'm sensitive about these things.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Good thing I'm not, because I lost a lot of followers this past week.
Well, I'm trying to educate people too. I'm trying to be nice about it. I try to help people. Some old bitch was arguing with me, and now this is going long. Some grandmother was arguing with me that Clevenger sucks and he's not as good as Tomlin because now, of course, the last 2 days they've both been fantastic. But he wasn't as good as Tomlin because Francona didn't have him on the roster. Essentially, her argument to everything in the world was if Francona didn't say it, then it wasn't true. And because he knows more than everybody else in the world does. And so I'm pointing out all these statistical things of why Clevenger is great and why he shouldn't be in AAA, because he's like, I mean, I remember when they brought Clevenger up from AA for the playoffs in Columbus, and he like pitched a no-hitter in his first playoff game. He went from the AA and went to AAA in the playoffs. Just skipped everything, straight to the playoffs, and pitched a no-hitter through like 7 innings. And then the next game, he threw another shutout. And since then, like if you look at every single playoff game he's ever thrown, or every single game he's ever thrown in AAA, his ERA is like 1.2. He's never been hit in AAA. He shouldn't be there. He should be in the major leagues. And this bitch is arguing with me over this stupid stuff. And there's no convincing her otherwise. I think I ended up meeting her. I just couldn't take it anymore.
And that's the right thing to do.
But I am trying to educate. Well, I guess my point is, I am trying to educate these people, and I try to be nice. And I never said anything nasty to her in our conversations online. I would just say, like, look, here's some evidence. Here's some more evidence. And she would come out would be like, it was like, dude, whatever. It was like, there was no convincing. Nothing possibly could have. Maybe like you could have found a Bible verse that said, "Ye shall not bunt," and it wouldn't have been enough.
That's my favorite. You give someone all the evidence in the world, they just say your evidence doesn't matter to me because I don't have any, but I don't like your
Jensen
evidence.
Lewis. So fuck your evidence.
Fake news.
Jensen Lewis got a raise.
Oh God.
A promotion, I mean. We're here doing a podcast talking about bullshit. Jensen Lewis is doing a radio show because he just got promoted. So let's leave it at that. I've been Joe Koblitz, BurningRiverBaseball.com, at BurningRiverBB. He's been Justin Latta, that dude over there. He swears a little much for me, but what do you want? At JL_baseball. He's going to go practice those 3 words in his bedroom. Thanks for listening. Have a good one. I hope we've been entertaining. We'll try to do better next time. Go Tribe.